In the winter of 2017, a 24-year-old college student named Emily Carter moved into a small apartment building in Columbus, Ohio. It wasn't a dangerous area. The building was old, but quiet. Mostly graduate students and young professionals. For the first few weeks, nothing unusual happened. Until one night, when Emily woke up at 2:11 a.m. and saw a man standing in her hallway. He wasn't breaking in, he wasn't moving. He was just standing there, watching her bedroom door. At least, that's what she thought she saw. Because the next morning, the police told her something that made the situation far worse. According to the building's security logs, no one had entered the building that night. Emily had moved to Columbus for a new job at a small marketing company downtown. Her apartment was in a 3-story brick building built sometime in the late 1970s. It had 12 units. The hallways were narrow, the carpets were old, and the walls were thin enough that you could sometimes hear your neighbors walking around at night. But overall, it felt safe. There was only one entrance to the building, and it required a key card to get inside. Each floor had 4 apartments arranged around a short hallway. Emily's apartment was on the 2nd floor, apartment 2B. Inside, the layout was simple. Front door, small living room, kitchen, then a narrow hallway leading to the bathroom and bedroom. From the bedroom doorway, you could see straight down the hallway toward the living room. Emily liked the apartment because it felt cozy, but there was one thing she noticed almost immediately. At night, the hallway always seemed darker than the rest of the apartment, even with the lights on. It was just one of those places where shadows collected. 3 weeks after moving in, Emily woke up suddenly in the middle of the night. She later said she didn't know what woke her. There was no loud noise, no crash, no footsteps, just that strange feeling that something wasn't right. When she checked her phone, the time read 2:11 a.m. Emily rolled over in bed and looked toward the bedroom door, and that's when she saw it. At the far end of the hallway, there was a dark shape. At first, her sleepy brain tried to convince her it was just shadows. Maybe a coat hanging somewhere. But after a few seconds, the shape became clearer. It was a person. A man. Standing perfectly still in the hallway. He was tall, broad shoulders, and he appeared to be facing directly toward her bedroom. Emily froze. For several seconds, she didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't speak. Her brain was trying to process what she was seeing. Someone was inside her apartment. But the stranger didn't move. He didn't walk closer. He didn't turn. He just stood there, silent, watching the bedroom. Finally, Emily grabbed her phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam of light shot across the hallway, and instantly, the hallway was empty. Emily got out of bed slowly. Her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. She walked to the hallway, checked the bathroom, checked the kitchen, checked the front door. Everything was locked. The deadbolt was still in place. The chain lock was still attached. All the windows were closed. There was no sign anyone had been inside. Emily told herself she must have imagined it. Maybe she was half dreaming. Sleep paralysis. Her brain creating shapes in the dark. Eventually, she went back to bed. But she barely slept the rest of the night. 2 nights later, Emily woke up again. This time it was 2:14 a.m., and immediately, before she even looked up, she already knew. Someone was in the hallway. She slowly turned toward the bedroom door, and there he was again. The same figure, same height, same shape, standing in the exact same place, facing the bedroom. Emily felt a wave of cold panic rush through her chest. This time she didn't wait. She immediately turned on her phone flashlight. The hallway lit up. And again. Nothing was there. Emily jumped out of bed and searched the apartment. Everything locked, everything normal. But now she was sure of one thing. She had seen someone. Twice. The next morning, Emily reported the incident to the building manager. At first, he assumed it was a misunderstanding. Maybe a neighbor had the wrong apartment. Maybe someone knocked and walked away. but Emily insisted someone had been inside. So the manager checked the security camera footage from the building entrance. There was only one camera. It recorded everyone who entered or exited the building. They checked the footage between midnight and 4 a.m. No one entered. No one left. The only movement in the building that night was one tenant walking his dog at 11:47 p.m. After that, the entrance door never opened again, which meant whoever Emily saw in her hallway was already inside the building. Emily tried to stay awake the next night. She drank coffee, watched movies, left every light in the apartment on. But around 2 a.m., exhaustion finally caught up with her. She fell asleep on the couch. When she woke up, it was 2:12 a.m., and the apartment was dark. The lights were off. Emily sat up quickly, confused. She was sure she had left the lights on. Then she heard something, a soft sound, not footsteps, more like fabric brushing against a wall. It came from the hallway. Emily slowly turned toward it and felt her stomach drop. The man wasn't at the end of the hallway this time. He was closer, much closer, standing just outside the bedroom door, only a few feet away. His face was hidden in shadow, but she could clearly see his outline. Tall, still, watching. Emily screamed and turned on her flashlight. The hallway was empty. Again, this time Emily called the police. 2 officers arrived around 3 a.m. They searched the entire apartment. Closets, bathroom, kitchen cabinets, even under the bed. Nothing. No forced entry, no footprints, no fingerprints. But one officer noticed something strange. There was a small air vent above the hallway, a square metal vent in the ceiling. It looked normal. But when the officer stood on a chair and removed the vent cover, he discovered something disturbing. Behind the vent was a large crawl space. Not part of the apartment, just empty space between the ceilings of the first and second floors. And inside that crawl space, the dust had been disturbed. There were fresh handprints and drag marks, like someone had been moving around inside it. The police returned the next day with maintenance workers. They opened a larger access panel in the hallway ceiling. Then they shined flashlights into the crawl space. What they found inside was terrifying. Someone had been living there, hidden above the apartments. There were food wrappers, empty water bottles, a sleeping bag, and several small tools. But the most disturbing thing they found was a small stack of photographs. Every photo showed Emily's apartment, taken through the air vent. Photos of the hallway, photos of the bedroom door, photos taken while Emily was sleeping. The photos had timestamps. Some were taken weeks before Emily ever reported seeing anyone, which meant the man had been watching her long before she ever knew he was there. The police later discovered something else. 3 months earlier, a man named Kevin Daly had lived in apartment 1B, directly below Emily. Kevin had suddenly moved out. Or at least, that's what the landlord thought. But no one had actually seen him leave. His apartment was found empty. No furniture, no belongings, just a few tools and some food cans. At the time, everyone assumed he had simply skipped out on rent. But after finding the crawl space, the police began to suspect something else. Kevin Daly might have never left the building at all. Emily moved out of the apartment the same week. The crawl space was sealed permanently. The vents were reinforced. But Kevin Daly was never found, and investigators never discovered exactly how long he had been living above the apartments. Some residents later told police they sometimes heard strange sounds in the ceiling late at night. Soft movement, slow crawling, quiet breathing. But they always assumed it was just pipes. Or perhaps it was just the building settling, because the idea that someone could be living above them the entire time, watching them through the vents, was too disturbing to believe, until Emily finally looked down her hallway and saw him standing there.